Hello, hello. Good morning, my true crime junkies. This is Ida, your host. Happy Monday. If you're new, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and follow my page here below. And you can find us also on Instagram, Facebook, on Twitter. And today's episode is about a Victorian era serial killers. I'm taking it way, way back today. Despite being a relatively new term, serial killers have been prevalent since the beginning of time. And with killers where they were able to get away with a lot prior to the 20th century. This was during the Victorian era in the years of 1837 and 1901. Some of the most horrific true crime stories in history occurred back then, and term serial killer was centuries away from being coined. Let's begin with three of the most notorious serial killers of the Victorian era. I will be starting with a serial killer called John Liver Eating Johnson, born John Jeremiah Garrison Johnson. He was born July 1st, 1824 in Hickory Tavern area near Padenburg, New Jersey. He was a mountain man of the American Old West. John served in the Mexican-American War while still underage. After striking an officer, he left the army and went west to pursue gold digging in Alder Gulch, Montana territory. He also became a woodhawk, supplying cordwood to steamboats. His wife, a member of the Flathead American Indian tribe, was killed by a young Crow brave and his fellow hunters, which prompted Johnson to embark on a vendetta against the tribe. According to historian Andrew Meehan Sutherland, he supposedly killed and scalped more than 300 Crow Indians and then devoured their livers to avenge the death of his wife. And as his reputation and collection of scalps grew, Johnson became an object of fear. Accounts say that he would cut out and eat the liver of each crow he killed. This led to his being known as Liver Eating Johnson. One tale ascribed to Johnson is while on a foray of over 500 miles in the winter to sell whiskey to his Flathead kin, he was ambushed by a group of Blackfoot warriors. The Blackfoot planned to sell him to the Crows, his mortal enemies. He was stripped to the waist, tied with leather thongs, and put in a teepee with one guard. Johnson managed to break through the straps. He then knocked out the guard with a kick, took his knife, and scalped him. He escaped the woods and fled to a cabin called Delgu, his trapping partner, a journey of about 200 miles. Eventually, Johnson made peace with the Crow, who became his brothers, and his personal vendetta against him finally ended after 25 years and scores of slain Crow warriors. Johnson joined Company H, 2nd Colorado Cavalry of the Union Army in St. Louis in 1864 as a private and was honorably discharged the following year. During the 1880s, he was appointed deputy sheriff in Colston, Montana, and a town marshal in Red Lodge, Montana. In his time, he was a sailor, scout, soldier, gold seeker, hunter, trapper, woodhawk, whiskey peddler, guide, deputy, constable, and a log cabin builder, taking advantage of any source of income producing labor he could find. His final residence was in a veteran's home in Santa Monica, California, where he later died January 21 of 1900. His body was buried in Los Angeles Veterans Cemetery. However, in 1974, after a 6-month campaign led by 25 7th grade students and their teacher, Johnson's remains were relocated to Cody, Wyoming. Now, let's move on to the next. Now we're going to be talking about a serial killer called Lydia Sherman. Born December 24th of 1824 in Burlington, New Jersey. And she was an orphan as a child. At 17, she met her first husband, and they moved to New York City. Her husband soon lost his job and became very depressed. Then Sherman poisoned him with arsenic in 1864. A few weeks later, she poisoned 3 of her children with arsenic and then poisoned 2 more in 1865. At the time, she worked as a nurse and married her second husband in 1868. She poisoned her second husband that same year with arsenic. In 1870, she married her third husband and poisoned him as well in 1871. She was caught and convicted in 1872, but in 1877, she escaped and continued her crimes by poisoning 2 more children. She was brought back to prison, passing away from cancer in 1878. So her ending was very tragic. Now, let's move on to the third Victorian serial killer. We're going to be talking about Wild Bill Longley. Wild Bill Longley was born October 6th of 1851 in Austin County. He was a Texas man. Given name was William Preston Longley. That was his birth name. The 6th of 10 children of Campbell and Sarah Longley. His family moved when he was 2 years old, and he was raised on a farm near Old Evergreen, Texas. In present days, Lincoln, Lee County, Texas, where he spent a large part of his childhood learning to shoot. He received an average education for the time. He was 6 feet tall with a thin build, jet black hair, and was just reaching adulthood when the American Civil War ended in 1865. In 1868, Longley committed his first murder, killing a former slave traveling through town. In 1870, he committed to spend 5 years in the army. However, he left in 1872. In 1873, he returned to Texas and was accused of murdering another freedman. By 1875, he shot and murdered his childhood best friend and fled town. He committed another murder in 1876, and that same year, he became a sharecropper for a preacher, whom he later murdered. He was arrested in 1877 and was executed in 1878. That is for all today, my friends. Thank you for listening today and for all your support. Make sure you don't forget to subscribe, and make sure you have a great week, and please stay safe. Bye.